What's going on? So I would have to say from an exercise standpoint, I have pretty average genetics. I've tried to build up my musculature over the years and I've seen gains, but it's a very slow process. So being that I've noticed that I'm not the most, I can't just, walk through the gym and put on a ton of muscle like some bodybuilder types can. I have to be a little bit more strategic, a little bit more scientific in this process. And so this is what the series has been about. If you haven't seen my other videos yet, what I'm doing is I'm making a series on different muscle groups and how to best optimize them as far as getting the most from them, the best exercises and all this. This is a work in progress. It's kind of a little bit of a selfish work in progress because I'm documenting different exercises that I find to be useful. So I just want to share this with the community. This particular video series is going to be about legs, getting that juicy tushy. But anyway, I think it's important for me, for example, I have a pretty flat ass. And so being able to build that up has been enormously helpful for my own self-confidence. And I just think it also balances your body, because if you're building your upper body, you really want to be building your lower body. You don't want to be that kind of meme of like this, the guy with the stick figure legs and then the giant upper body torso. So I really hate legs. Like, this is why they say, they make jokes about skipping leg day and all this stuff, but it's so important. And so that's really the intention for this video. So who am I? My name's Andy J, and I'm on a mission to help millennial men feel our best. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Now, again, today we're going to be focusing on legs and some of the best exercises I think that can really maximize leg growth. And doing legs is like half of your body's musculature. So there's all these extra adaptive responses that also help the body. It challenges the body. It helps with like your immune system, your cardiovascular health. There's a lot that happens to legs. Anytime I do legs, I am dripping in sweat by the time I leave the gym, because it really taxes your body on a deeper level than any other type of muscle group, in my opinion. Now, before we get into this, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, because then you will be notified when I come out with more exercise videos, more hormone optimization videos on how to increase testosterone, how to feel awesome as a man, and so much more. Also, please comment below. I'm curious to hear what leg exercises you like, which ones you're doing, which ones you're experimenting with, because I also am always playing with different types of leg exercises, and I always want to be trying some out. And maybe I can make more videos trying out what you guys suggest. So please drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts, anything at all, because your comments are so helpful for this channel. Now, to understand the legs, let's do a quick anatomy lesson. Basically, I want to break them up into 4 primary muscle groups. There's a lot of smaller muscle groups we can get into, but really the main ones you want to be focusing on are quadriceps, hamstrings, calves, and glutes. So the purpose of this video is going to be primarily focusing on those particular muscle groups. Now, some tips on what you want to look for to get the most from leg exercises, and this really applies to any exercise, is making sure you're really focusing on muscle activation. So depending on if you're working on your quadriceps or your hamstrings or your glutes, you're really focusing in on that particular muscle while you're doing the exercise. Ensuring you're advocating for proper form and safety, so there's no ego lifting. You don't want to mess up your back or cause some sort of injury doing leg exercises. So you want to pick exercises, and I'll show you some of the ones in a minute that I like that are relatively safe. I'm not a big fan of doing a normal squat that's just no support whatsoever. It takes an extreme amount of technique and skill to be able to do a free squat. There's really the risk to reward ratio on doing one of those, even though it looks really cool in the gym, is not really worth it, in my opinion. Maybe if you're 20 years old or younger and you can basically bounce back from that. But as we get older, it's not worth the risk to be able to do that unless you've already developed that skill set to be able to do a proper squat. And then range of motion, focusing on range of motion is really important because that's so good for joint health. Loading those joints up with the proper amount of weight, so not ego lifting or doing an excessive amount of weight, finding the right amount of weight and experimenting with that so you can stay in a healthy rep range. And I'll go more into that in a second, but being mindful of that, going through full range of motion, that's going to be the best for your muscle and joint health. So the first exercise I like to do is, and you can do this in a normal squat or in a hack squat position. A lot of times I actually like to do the hack squat. I feel that there is a lot more quadricep development or activation in that. And so to do the hack squat, I recommend using a Smith machine or any type of pinned machine that you're doing in a squat position. So there's a difference between squats and leg presses. And so the squat position is way better from a total muscle activation standpoint, in my opinion. And so also because it's a Smith machine, it's connected. So if, for example, you go to failure a little bit too early, you can re-clip the weight onto the machine and it's not going to crush you or make you fall over. So how you actually do this exercise is position yourself under the Smith machine with your feet slightly in front of your body, shoulder width apart. The bar should be comfortably across your upper traps. Then when you're ready, you underrack the bar and keep the back in a straight position. Some of them have a back pad, which is even better. But if you don't, just make sure your abs are tight and your back is in a straight position. Lower the body by bending your knees and hips, keeping the chest up and then the core engaged. Your knees should track in line with your toes. So you want to make sure for most of the time that your knees aren't drifting past your toes. With lighter weight, you can challenge that a little bit, but be very careful because actually I think allowing the knees to go past the toes can be good in some situations from an overall joint health standpoint, but you have to be very careful. Normally, when you're doing it, I don't recommend the knees going past the toes, particularly if you're loading up heavier weight. And then you're going to lower down until your thighs are parallel to the ground, or if you feel comfortable going a little bit beyond that is also really good. Then when you're ready to come back up from the squatting position, you want to drive through the heels, not the balls of the feet. So this is very important. You want to stay driving through the heels, and then you're going to keep tension in your legs, and then you're going to come all the way up and come up to the point right before you lock the knees, but do not lock the knees, because what happens is when you lock the knees, one, you're putting extra stress on the joint, but two, you're actually allowing the weight to shift off the muscle being activated and resting on your bones. And so it's actually causing you to make the exercise easier. And we actually want to get out of the exercise and finish it as fast as possible. So protect your knees and keep the tension loaded the entire time. As far as reps and sets go, I recommend generally between 3 to 4 sets, and rep ranges can be anywhere from 8 to 12. I prefer the 8 to 10 range because it's very, very loading to my system. I feel like it's even increasingly hard to breathe because it's taking so much tension. So I usually like to keep the reps on the lower side. The next exercise I really like that really focuses on hamstring involvement is the Romanian deadlift. I also, as a secondary muscle group that I find that also gets a lot of activation, and from what I notice, is also my lower back, the lower erector spinae muscles. Those also, I noticed that this is a really good exercise to kind of strengthen my overall core because it does activate a lot. So to do the Romanian deadlift, you can use a lot of different ways to do this. You can use a Smith machine. A lot of times I like to use actually dumbbells. Now the thing is, if you like to do dumbbells, I like to do it because it's more free flowing. Also, what I just thought of right now is if your gym, I wish my gym had this, but if your gym has a trap bar, that's an amazing way to also do Romanian deadlifts. But most of the time, we just have to use dumbbells. The thing with the dumbbells, though, is you may need to use wrist straps, like some way you can kind of like connect your body to the dumbbell so it doesn't slide out of your hand, because what I notice is a lot of sweat starts to accumulate and it becomes harder for me to hold on to the dumbbell. So, experiment and see what works for you. But to get started, the starting position is you stand feet width apart, hold the dumbbells and basically by your side. And then as you're beginning to move down, you want to shift the dumbbells kind of in front of your body. Keep the knees slightly bent, but then what you want to kind of do is drive the hips back. It's almost like you're sticking your butt back, but keeping the back straight. The idea here is like you're sort of like hinging at the hips, and then you're pushing, keeping the back straight, and then driving the hips back as you're coming down. Keep lowering until you find a good stretch and a comfortable position where form isn't compromised. So this varies by your level of flexibility, so you want to experiment with this. But this is also why this is such a great exercise, because it will actually help you train your muscles to get longer and then allow you to increase your flexibility, which is then going to prevent other injuries from occurring in the future. When you get to the most bottom position in this exercise, you want to then squeeze from your butt and abs, and then come back up into the position that you started in. And then you want to just rinse and repeat this particular movement pattern. As far as reps and sets goes, same deal. About 3 to 4 sets is really good. Reps about 8 to 10. Again, I like to be on the lower end of the rep section because I find this one also to be extremely fatiguing to my nervous system and it burns me out a lot. But if you can tolerate a slightly higher reps, that actually will be even better in some ways. So experiment and find the amount of reps that are good for you. As long as by the time you finish the last set, you're going to complete muscle failure, you've done a good job. Now, the third exercise I like to do for focusing on the legs is developing those calves. Most of us I know have little baby calves and we need to develop them more. So having some sort of calf routine is really good. I recommend doing calves at least twice a week because it's going to help them develop more and they can take a little bit more of a beating than some of the other muscles I notice. Now, there's really like 2 ways you can focus on calves. You can, maybe your gym, and most gyms will have some sort of calf machine where you're either standing with the pads on your shoulders or there's ones that go over the tops of the knees. Both of those are fine and you can alternate with them and experiment with different ones. I personally like to use the leg press machine. And I'm going to demo how to use it with the leg press machine. I like this too because most places will have some sort of leg press machine at a minimum, even if they don't have a calf machine. So I can always work on my calves using this particular machine. So to set yourself up on a leg press machine to do calves, first you want to make sure that the seat is in the upright position, and then the actual pad or the platform that you put your legs normally higher up, or your feet normally higher up, that they're basically hanging off. So basically the balls of your feet are right at the edge of the platform. And so you want to, hopefully your machine doesn't have something blocking your foot path in that area. And if it's open, perfect. So you want to then, when you start to load the weight, and you can usually use a decent amount of weight on this particular exercise because the range of motion is quite small, but you want to make sure it's not too heavy that you can't get a continual range of motion that's comfortable and that will challenge it properly. You also want to really make sure that the speed to which you do this exercise is not too quickly. You don't want to be just like pumping out calf reps, or it's not going to do anything. So when you load it up, you want to come in for a good stretch where your heels are coming away from you and there's a nice stretch. You could feel it in the calves. From there, you're going to push through the balls of the feet and then come back very slowly and then coming back all the way up to about where your feet are flat. There's some evidence to show that actually people who just stop at the normal position tends to get better results than if you push through the calves even further. I don't know why that is, but there's been a few studies at this point to show that. So it's kind of fascinating. So you're just coming up to that position and then you're coming back into a stretch, rinse and repeat that process. And generally speaking, I recommend a little bit higher rep range. So still around 3 to 4 sets, but anywhere from 10 to 15 or even 15 to 20 reps or better. I like to be closer to the 15 range because I feel like if you get too high, you build up too much lactic acid in the tissue and you may actually think you're going to failure when it's actually just lactic acid accumulating in the tissue. And the last exercise to focus on the butt. This has always been a work in progress, trying to find good exercises. And in an ideal world, if you have like a hip thrust type machine at your gym, go with that because those are awesome. But most gyms don't have it. The gym I have, unfortunately, does not have that machine. I've only gotten to use it a few times when I'm checking out other gyms. So the best one that I found to do is basically using a cable machine glute pull through exercise. And so what you're going to basically do is you're going to drop the cable down all the way to the lowest position and get a rope. And then facing away, you're going to grab the rope, walk away from the machine, and holding the rope between the legs. From there, you're going to hinge from the hips, pulling the rope between the legs, and then allowing a good stretch. Now, from there, you're going to engage in the glutes, and then start hinging from the hips, keeping the back straight, and you're almost basically coming with the hips forward, sort of humping towards the front position. From there, you're going to do squeeze into the glutes. You should really feel it activating into your glutes. And then you're going to then allow, with tension the whole way back, nice controlled, coming forward again. You're going to repeat that motion really emphasizing the squeezing on the bottom and the top of the rep range and repeating that process as needed with the desired weight. Reps and sets, 3 to 4 sets is a good one, and a little bit higher on the rep range, around 12 to 15 reps tends to be really good for this exercise. Now, I want to actually give 2 honorable mentions because I find that these exercises are really good to throw in if you have the time at the gym. Doing the exercises I just mentioned will help your leg development significantly, but if you can add these 2 exercises in, they're going to help synergize with everything else you're doing. So the first one is using a quad extension machine, and then the second one we're going to talk about is using a hamstring machine. So the quad extension machine, a couple tips on it. Most of them are very similar, but there's a couple tweaks you can make to it to get more from the exercise. The first thing is making sure that you're actually bringing the seat further back than you're comfortable with, because if you're leaning back a little bit more, it will allow a deeper stretch across the tops of the quadriceps than if you're sitting in a normal 90-degree sitting position that most people tend to do at the gym. Make sure that the knees are evenly spaced with the inner hips. And then when you're going through the range of motion, making sure the knees are not coming in or out. So you really want to focus all your energy keeping the knees in the set position. Like, that's another tip to keep in mind. Now, as far as the speed to which you go, that can also be helpful, is you can almost kick out fairly quickly, but when you come back, try to go as slow as possible controlling the weight. So it's a very fast, positive, and then very, very, very slow negative. That will get your quads burning a lot, and you will notice that you're getting a really good stretch. When you extend out and your legs are kicked out, really make sure you're leaning back and you're feeling a good stretch across the quadriceps. And just repeat that process, be safe, pick a good weight that feels good for you, and you should be on your way. The other thing to keep in mind is really pulling the hips down. So if you're feeling pain in the knees when you do this exercise, you need to be pulling more aggressively, pulling your butt into the seat, because that's going to shift the tension away from the knees and into the quads. So focus on that too. That's a huge thing that I think a lot of people miss, and then they cause knee pain because they're putting too much tension on the knee from that exercise. Rep range, anywhere from 3 to 4 reps. 10 to 12 reps is a good kind of benchmark for that particular exercise. And then the hamstring curl machine, there's a lot of variations if you're laying down or sitting up. I particularly like the sitting up version if it's available, because I feel like I can just stay more locked in to the actual position. But if you only have the laying down version, that's fine too. Similarly, you want to make sure that the knees are in a parallel position, kind of aligned with your inner hip, and they're not shifting or moving around. You want to make sure that the toes are kind of kicking up a little bit and facing the knees. That's going to help emphasize a little bit more hamstring involvement. So you want to keep that position locked. And then you're going to, similarly, when you're pulling in, you can kind of go a little bit faster and then slowly coming out as you're controlling it. If you're in the seated type of hamstring machine, really see if you can lock, if there's a pad that you can lock your legs in, and then you really want to drive your back into the seat as hard as you can to keep your body stable. Reps and sets, about 3 to 4 sets. And again, about 10 to 12 reps is an ideal kind of range for doing a hamstring exercise. So that's it for legs today. Now, as far as a reward for staying to the end, check out the link in my bio and join my Discord server, because I'm giving away a free workout sheet that you can track your progress. Because if you're not tracking your numbers, you don't know if you're progressing properly. So it's so important to have a way to write down what weight you're doing, write down the settings you're using on the machine so you're consistent. And you can actually shorten the length of time you're in the gym because you've already documented this information. So click the link in my bio, join our server. You're going to get a lot of free information. You're going to get that workout chart and so much more. I'll keep trying to add free content to that channel. And then also we're building communities. So, you'll be around like-minded people where we're trying to feel our best, feel better than we did in our 20s. So that's it for now. About this time, you'll see other videos related to this topic. So, click those videos to see other types of strategies to get the most from your workout so you can build a good workout plan. And I think that's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. So you're notified when I come out with more exercise videos, more videos on how to optimize your hormones, and so we can feel our best as aging millennial men. So again, right now there should be some videos. Check those out, and I will talk to you soon.